So the Shape Builder tool was great because it allows us to work with shapes and create whole new objects. Doesn't involve much drawing, just using basic shapes and overlapping them in the way that we want to use them. And you can create tons of things using the Shape Builder. But what happens is when you use the Shape Builder and you delete part of it, that part is permanently edited. And then if you want to go in and change any elements about it, you have to really kind of know what's going on. So there's another tool that we can use that can give us the same effect, but leaves us with a little bit of flexibility. And that particular tool is something called the Pathfinder. Now, the Pathfinder has its own palette. So I'm going to come up here to Window and then come down here and choose the Pathfinder. Before we had Shape Builder, Pathfinder is how we could create shapes in that way. And there's something nice about using the Pathfinder that I wanted to show you so that we don't just throw it away. It's still actually a really good tool. So when I bring up the Pathfinder panel, notice that it's divided into two sections. This part about shape modes and then this part about Pathfinder. The difference is shape modes can be used to create editable shapes where you can rearrange them and change your mind later. Pathfinder does a permanent change, kind of like using the Shape Builder, but we get more options about how those things are going to happen. Let's start by taking a look at the shape modes first. If I click and drag around both of these shapes and select them, notice these become active. And if I put my cursor here, it tells me what it's going to do. So right now, if I click on this, it would unite them. This would minus the front. This would keep only the intersection area, and this would keep everything but the intersection area. It's called Exclude. Now, if I just push the button, then it's basically the same as using Shape Builder. But if I hold Alt and click on this, then it creates something called a compound shape. A compound shape is pretty cool because if I click away now, you can see that it looks exactly like the slice of bread that we had before. But if I click on here with the selection tool or the direct selection tool, is even better, then I can pick up the individual shape and I can edit that shape independently of the other shape. So it's still live and editable. I could come in here and select these different parts. I could decide to make it a keyhole instead and edit them, and it's still respecting that unite that we did in the very first place. So both shapes are editable and transformable, and you're able to manipulate them. So that's an amazing thing that the Pathfinder does, is leave you with a lot more options that you don't get from using the Shape Builder. Now, the downside is we've made kind of a complex shape here. By leaving them combined, the computer has to think a lot. And when it comes time to print, sometimes you can have some issues. Let me move this up just a little bit. So in the end, before you get ready to print, what you're going to want to do is select any of these compound shapes that you have and then click on Expand, because Expand will reduce them into a simple basic shape. But you can keep it editable for as long as you want to until the very, very end. And honestly, I would try printing it first and making sure that I have a problem before I come in here and try to expand. So that's a cool thing about the Pathfinder and the shape modes on the Pathfinder, where it allows you to edit this in the future, and you can keep changing it until you're really, really happy with what it looks like. So let me go ahead and select this. Another thing that I could do is I can come under this menu here and I can say release the compound shape. And what that does is give me my two shapes back so that I could do something else. So if I wanted to do this where it says minus front, what I'd like to do is bring the rectangle to the front. So I'll say object arrange bring to front. And then if I wanted to do the hairdo thing, I can select both of these now. I can hold Alt and click here and say minus front, and I have the hairdo, but I still have the rectangle. So if I want her bangs to be lower or something, I can select just the rectangle and move it down, and it will change that appearance if I need to. So it's much more dynamic and much more editable. And I could show you the other two, but honestly, they work the same. So the idea is the same. The main thing is to remember to hold Alt when you select these different shape modes. So let's go ahead and release this compound shape so that I get my two shapes back. And then let's look at what happens when you use the regular Pathfinders. So for the regular Pathfinders, one that's really cool that you might want to use fairly often is this one called Divide. What that does is it cuts everything into individual shapes. So if I click this, now you'll see that I have all the parts from the shapes being combined together. You can see I have these three parts here. And so divide is something that is pretty useful and I use fairly often. Okay, so then I can also do the same things as before. I can use one shape to trim out of another shape. You end up with both pieces, but they are trimmed out of the other one. Step back by doing Control Z a couple times. I can also merge, which is kind of like uniting, and it makes it all into one shape. Step back. You can also intersect. You can outline, which gives you just the paths, the outlines. And then you can also minus the object in the back so that you don't have to arrange first. So if I do minus back, notice it cut out the object that was in the back. So anyways, these are Pathfinders. Pathfinders make permanent changes, but they give you some options that you might not get with the Shape Builder tool. So use the Shape Builder when you find it's not meeting all of the needs that you might have. I recommend getting out the Pathfinder and trying some of these other ones. Remember, shape modes, if you hold Alt, allow you a lot of editability, but the Pathfinder gives you different ways to interact with your shapes that you may not get with the Shape Builder tool.